Emotional and social development in early childhood. Erickson's initiative guilt stage is the third crisis and the third stage in his psychosocial development theory. It occurs between the ages of 3 and 6 years. Initiative is the positive choice, guilt the potentially negative alternative. These are the play years. Children want responsibility and need adult confirmation that their contribution is valued. Parents must not be overly critical. They must provide supervision without interference. They must encourage acting on choices and provide positive choices from which to choose. Group competitive games should be avoided where there is a clear loser. The hallmarks of social and emotional development in the preschooler, aged 3 to 6 years, includes a world that is ever expanding. There's their own house, their own yard, neighborhood territory, nursery school, and then kindergarten. True peer relationships emerge, and how successful a preschooler is with peer relationships is directly related to the quality of daycare and the relationships the preschooler has with early teachers. Through peer relationships, preschoolers learn fairness and mutual give and take, reciprocity. They also learn how to better get along with their siblings. With this expanding world, a preschooler develops greater self-reliance. He or she has initiative, a sense of independence. If success is tasted often enough in quest for doing it myself, then the child grows in self-efficacy, or the belief that he/she is capable of accomplishing things, of mastering the environment. Gross motor skills increase, like climbing and running. Language skills increase. Problem-solving and concentration skills increase. Tolerance for delays and frustrations increase. Sticking to a task increases. Fantasy play increases, which gives children a sense of power in an adult-controlled world. There are changes in self-understanding that occur in early childhood years. Late in toddlerhood, a child can represent self mentally, but only in one-at-a-time immediate experiences, like, I am going for a walk, I am playing ball. It is not until preschool years that a child can move back and forth mentally among experiences that are not immediately present, like, I did not brush my teeth last night, but most nights I brush them before story time. This ability to move back and forth among experiences that are not presently being experienced expands the child's sense of self. The self is developing. Self-constancy, or the sense that self endures in spite of temporary disruptions in relationships, begins in early childhood. A child can break a rule, feel guilty, and again gain favor with parents. Self-constancy is the perception of a stable self that endures despite varied behaviors and varied responses from others. Until about 3.5 years old, children do not have a clear understanding of the self as being continuous in time. They have difficulty identifying the self that was with the self that is. Self-seeing video is not the same as self in video. Self-esteem, or valuing the self as good, capable, and likable, increases in preschool years if there is a history of positive evaluations, warmth, and empathy from significant others, as well as a history of successful attempts at mastering the environment. A preschooler high in self-esteem will describe self in positive terms like, I am smart and strong and a good helper. A preschooler tends to overrate self and overrate abilities, self-esteem tends to be global and depends on adult approval and support, like reading, listening, and comforting. There is emotional development. Reading the emotions of others progresses. Children of preschool age are good at reading positive emotions, but not very adept at successfully reading negative ones. Due to the appearance reality problem, children in early childhood have trouble telling apart what people really feel from what they appear to feel. This discrepancy is used more with negative emotions than with positive ones. By ages 5 to 8, children become much better at watching for and integrating situational cues with visible facial clues to determine how someone really feels. By about age 2, children show signs of emotional regulation. They begin to show an ability to tolerate frustration and rapidly increase this by kindergarten. Included in this ability to tolerate frustration is the tendency to become less angry, have fewer tantrums, seek help and other constructive responses when problems are beyond them, and to stay engaged or to be persistent in the face of frustration. Parents can help by being warm and patient and giving ideas and strategies to the child for controlling their emotions. Strategies like shifting attention, asking for help, walking away. Preschoolers' ability to tolerate frustration also leads to greater negotiation skills with their parents. Also included in the ability to tolerate frustration is delay of gratification. The child is able to pass up an immediate reward in order to have a better reward later. Social development and peer relations. It is in the preschool years, from 2.5 years through kindergarten at age 5, that children develop sustained peer interactions and the beginnings of friendship. This peer interaction goes hand in hand with language mastery. As said in the beginning of this lecture, true peer relationships emerge during the preschool years, and how successful a preschooler is with peer relationships is directly related to the quality of daycare and the relationship the preschooler has with early teachers. Through peer relationships, preschoolers learn lots of things. They learn fairness and mutual give and take, reciprocity. They also learn how to get along better with siblings. Peer relationships enhance their self-concept. Peer relationships increase the preschooler's ability to manage conflict and interpersonal aggression. Peer relationships teach cultural norms and values and much about gender roles and stereotypes. Satisfactory and successful peer relationships lead to social competence and understanding one's emotions. Understanding one's own emotions is important to socialization and gives control over how feelings are shown. Understanding one's own emotions also makes children more sensitive to the feelings of others. Social competence is a child's ability to engage and respond to peers with positive feelings, to be of interest to peers, and to be highly regarded by them, to take the lead as well as to follow, and to sustain the give and take of peer interaction. All of this is involved in social competence. Different methods of measuring social competence in children, such as teacher judgments, peer judgments, and observations, tend to identify the same children as most socially competent. Children who are judged by their peers to be mean or aggressive are categorized as rejected. Rejected children run a high risk of escalation of aggression and more socialization problems down the line. Those who are ignored by their peers, who neither like or dislike them, are categorized as neglected. These neglected children tend to be overly dependent on teachers, as well as ineffective with peers. They are not generally hostile. Peer leaders are not only socially competent, but they know fun things to do, and they act with an enthusiasm that is contagious and makes others want to follow. Friends behave differently with each other than with non-friends. They have more frequent positive exchanges, more frequent disagreements, and more cooperation in problem-solving situations with friends than they do with non-friends. How well a child gets along with friends and peers is a very strong predictor of future adjustment versus psychological problems, as well as a predictor of school achievement. Children lacking in peer relationships and acting socially withdrawn may benefit from one-on-one interactions with a younger child in a structured play setting. It will give the socially withdrawn child a chance to be successful with social skills and an opportunity to gain more confidence. Of course, there should be adult supervision. The importance of play, the work of the young. Play provides exploration. Children learn new skills and make new discoveries with play. Play provides creativity. New experiences are created, and there are opportunities to express creativity in play. Play is a social workshop. It allows the child to solve social problems, to try out new roles, and to preserve a sense of self all the while. Play helps a child master fear and pain and to work out anxieties. Resolutions of pretend dramas enable positive adaptation. Skill with social fantasy play is predictive of quality preschool adjustment. With play, children learn how to deal with conflict. They learn how to get along and what pleases others. Play enhances growth by doing something about conflict, not denying it. Play provides an escape valve for being bad without reprisals. Play allows non-judgmental expression of emotions. There are all kinds of play. Children who play with imagination are more cooperative, more popular, and more joyful. Parallel play is playing alone but next to each other. Cooperative play is playing together. Repetitive play is simple, like rolling a ball. Constructive play is building a tower with blocks. Pretend play is playing fireman, doctor, teacher, astronaut. And then there are formal games with rules and taking turns, like marbles and hopscotch. More than that. 15 to 30% of children ages 3 to 10 years old have imaginary friends. This is normal. It happens most in bright, creative, firstborn, and only children. Girls do it more and have humans as imaginary friends. Boys tend to have animals as imaginary friends more often. Children with imaginary friends play more happily and cooperate more. They have better language skills, watch less television, have more curiosity, exuberance, and persistence during play. Imaginary friends help children handle the real world better. Internalization occurs in the preschool years. This is adopting as your own the rules and standards of others. With internalization, a child can be expected to obey rules even when the parents are not there, not present. Internalization is the base on which moral development is built. It allows for self-regulation. It is the bridge between adult control and self-regulation. By age 3 years, a child knows that some behaviors are right and some are wrong. By age 4 years, a child understands that some behaviors are more serious than others, like hitting and not sharing is worse than not washing before dinner or feeding the dog under the table. Parents can help internalization and self-regulation along by using appropriate language that indirectly controls, like, "You were so good to share your toy. You were so good to give Mary a turn. You were so good to make Joe feel better," versus using direct, strong commands like, "Stop it! Don't be selfish! Quit hitting!" In other words, catch the child being good and point out why he or she deserves to be congratulated. Always point out the reasons behind any rules so that the child understands why they must be obeyed. Focus on promoting good behavior, not just stopping bad behavior. Rely more on negative reinforcement rather than punishment. Negative reinforcement substitutes good behavior for bad. A child will be grounded or in timeout, which is something negative, but only until he or she makes amends and rights the wrong. So this negative bad thing is taken away with the appearance of good behavior to strengthen good behavior. If the child is in trouble for hitting, he or she will remain in the corner until an action is devised that makes it up to the aggrieved child. If the child is in trouble for not picking up toys, that child remains in the corner until the task of picking them up begins. Negative reinforcement works so much more effectively than punishment. With internalization, a child can feel more than the beginnings of pride and shame that surfaced in toddlerhood. The child can feel genuine guilt. The child knows that he or she has done something wrong. Guilt is felt because there is a sense of having failed to live up to an internalized standard. The global shame felt as a toddler now is more situation-specific for a particular behavior. This allows for making up attempts. The child can also feel genuine pride. As a toddler, a baby takes equal joy in a problem getting solved, regardless of who solves it. As a preschooler, a child is far happier if the solution is found by self, especially if the problem was difficult. There are developmental changes that take place in aggression. A 1-year-old does not have the intent to cause physical or psychological harm. This intent, so central to genuine aggression, does not appear until representational thought appears in late toddlerhood. A toddler uses aggression to get something called instrumental aggression. It is object-centered. A preschooler who understands self and who has a concept of fairness, or what peers ought to do, will be capable of aggression that is aimed at hurting someone else, called hostile aggression. Hostile aggression includes criticizing, ridiculing, and name-calling. Empathy is related to the occurrence of pro-social behavior. Empathy is offering effective help because you are capable of feeling as the other feels and are able to walk in his or her shoes. Empathy can include altruism, selflessness, or helping another without any expectation of personal reward. There are developmental changes that take place in empathy and altruism. These developmental changes are in 3 phases. The first one is crying when someone else is distressed. It occurs in infancy. The baby has no clear distinction between self and others. This is the very preliminary stages of empathy. The second, helpful behavior that is egocentric in toddlerhood. A child who is egocentric will offer his or her own parent or own favorite toy when another child is hurting. This is sympathy, not empathy, but it is progress. The third developmental change, perspective taking. This begins in the preschool period, and the capability for true helping has arrived. Responsiveness to others is more prevalent among those children with secure attachments. When sensitively cared for, a child learns how to care for others. A sense of gender is a key part of a preschooler's self-concept. Gender is what it means to be male or female. Sex differences are physical. Gender differences are psychological or behavioral differences between the sexes. Self is defined as being a boy or a girl. This gender-based self-concept develops as the result of several things: sex-type behavior, gender role concept, identification with parents, and gender constancy. Sex-type behavior is conforming to what culture or society expects as appropriate action for a girl or a boy. Sex-type behavior occurs in a series of phases. By age 2 years, there are gender-related preferences in toys. These are probably the result of imitation and reinforcement. Toy stores are tagged with girl aisles and boy aisles. TV advertisements show certain toys being played with by girls and others by boys. By age 3 years, more sex-type behavior is obvious. Boys play more rough-and-tumble group play. Girls play quieter games that require turn-taking and do not need groups. Parents give negative feedback if children behave in gender inconsistent or inappropriate ways. Children grow in self-esteem when they act gender appropriately. In the United States, the most negative feedback comes from fathers who witness sons playing with feminine or girl toys. Mothers are often more accepting of cross-gender play. Parents value different things. For boys, they applaud assertiveness, achievement, competitiveness, and emotional control. For girls, they value emotional sensitivity, warmth, ladylike behavior, cooperation, affection, and tenderness. Boys are given more freedom and allowed to cross the street alone sooner. They are given more feedback in science and math by teachers. Teachers protest less when a bright girl decides to take no more science and math courses. They have far more to say in protest when a bright boy makes the same decision. Another thing that helps gender-based self-concept is the gender role concept. This is the beginning understanding of the different stereotypes for girls and boys. The first one we touched on was sex-type behavior. The second one is gender role concept. Gender role concepts are acquired by age 4 or 5. There are cultural stereotypes well established in adults that begin at age 4 or 5 years. Males are given roles that are instrumental and geared to get things done. They are judged to be more aggressive and competitive and self-confident and ambitious. Females are given roles that are expressive and revolve around feelings. They are judged to be more kind, emotional, nurturing, and domestic. Still a third, emotional commitment to a particular gender as part of identification with parents. Identification with parents also helps to develop gender-based self-concept. And the fourth one, gender constancy. This is the understanding that gender is permanent, despite changes in age, dress, hairstyle, or behavior. Gender constancy is an important part of a developing sense of gender. Due to the appearance reality problem found commonly among 3-year-olds, gender constancy is not evidenced before the age of 4, not usually. Children believe that they are either boys or girls, but they also believe that superficial changes can produce a change in gender. Remember, this appearance reality distinction also explains why a child really believes that milk changes colors when colored cellophane is placed in front of it, or that the family dog was really temporarily a cat when wearing a cat mask. Gender constancy is connected with the principle of conservation, or the ability to know that certain characteristics of an object remain, and they remain the same even if appearances change. To give you an example of gender constancy and understanding that gender is permanent, I'll give you the story of Sandra Bim and her son wanting to wear barrettes at preschool. Sandra Bim is a gender researcher, and she allowed Jeremy to wear barrettes to school. Another boy insisted that Jeremy had to be a girl because he had barrettes in his hair. To prove his point, Jeremy dropped his pants, but the other kid was not the least impressed. "Everybody has a penis, only girls wear barrettes," he insisted. Jeremy had gender constancy. The other children did not. Child rearing. It is important to have parents with warmth and emotional responsiveness who share positive feelings and accept a child's autonomy. Parents must be consistent with discipline and agree between themselves on the type of discipline to be used. Secure attachment in early childhood is an added benefit. Individual differences become more stable and pronounced in the preschool years. The behavior patterns of a child will influence the caretaker's behavior, which in turn maintains the behavior patterns of a child. Reciprocity. Don't ignore the child when good and give attention only when he or she is bad. This reinforces misbehavior with attention. Even more important than discipline is how parents feel about their children, how they show these feelings, and if they allowed the children to show their feelings. Again, reciprocity. Diana Baumrind has given us three main techniques, or has identified three main techniques of parenting, of discipline: authoritative, authoritarian, and permissive. Authoritative is the best of the three. It yields instrumental competence. Authoritative parenting is warm, nurturing, consistent, and firm. Parents are involved, responsive, and encourage sharing of feelings. There is high control and a demand for appropriate behavior. Reasons are given for rules. Explanations are given to teach why and how a behavior has hurt another. The child is listened to. There is verbal give and take. Alternatives are negotiated. Autonomy and individuality are accepted and encouraged. Expectations are reasonable for the age and developmental level of the child. Rewards and reinforcements are used. Negative reinforcement is relied upon rather than punishment. With the timeout example, an aversive consequence is given and kept until the offender makes the other child feel better, and then the aversiveness is removed. So that's removing something bad in order to encourage good behavior. The loss of TV privileges until the chores are done is another example of negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is so much more effective, and it provides substitute good behavior in the place of bad behavior. Children raised with authoritative discipline are far more likely to have social competence with peers. They're more likely to have empathy and prosocial behavior and less aggression, more self-reliance and independence, more curiosity, more flexibility. They're more likely to be achievement-oriented and have self-control, to be energetic, to be cooperative with adults, to have a sense of control over life, to have satisfaction of meeting responsibilities. Lots of pluses with authoritative parenting. Authoritarian rhymes with barbarian. Parents using this style are detached and less warm. Parenting is restrictive, controlling, and less nurturing. Respect for authority and unquestioning strict obedience are demanded. Physical punishment is relied upon frequently, if not daily. Children raised with authoritarian discipline are more likely to have little social responsibility, to have decreased independence, to have unhappiness. Boys tend to be more aggressive. Girls tend to be more dependent. There's less advanced moral reasoning, less prosocial behavior, lower self-esteem, increased substance abuse. Children punished harshly and frequently have trouble correctly interpreting good intentions of others. They see hostility where none exists. Now, to be effective, punishment must have certain conditions. Punishment is not altogether bad. It can be used effectively. Timing is one element. There must be a short interval between the misbehavior and the punishment. Too much time in between makes punishment ineffective. Explanation. There must be a short and simple explanation given. Consistency. The same offense is punishable. It doesn't depend on the mood of the parent. Timing, explanation, consistency. Good relations, another prime ingredient for effective punishment. The person who punishes must have a good relationship with the child. Permissive parenting is the third technique. It can be warm, moderately nurturant, and non-controlling. Few limits are given, few demands are expected. Children are allowed to free fall through development with little or no structure. There are no rules like chores or curfew. Children raised with permissive parenting are more likely to have low self-control, low self-reliance, uncertainty, and increased anxiety.